The observation deck of the Celestial Merchant, the galaxy's most luxurious cruise liner, sparkled with bioluminescent panels that shifted colors like a cosmic aurora. Young Zixthar pressed his furry paws against the transparent aluminum viewport, his three eyes wide with fascination as he watched the blue-green planet rotate below. Earth, the humans called it, the world that had changed everything. "Cub, come away from there," his father, Commodore Vexithar, called from across the platinum-lined suite. The elder Vroxian was one of the wealthiest beings in the Galactic Trade Consortium, his fortune built on antimatter fuel distribution across 7 sectors. "We have the shareholders meeting in 20 minutes. But Zixithar couldn't tear himself away. He had heard the stories, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had, 3 decades ago. Humanity had stumbled into the stars with primitive fusion drives and laughable weapons. The consortium had immediately moved to acquire Earth's resources, expecting the usual negotiations with a new species, desperate for technology and protection. What happened instead became legend. "Father," Zixithar said, his translator converting his chittering into galactic standard, "is it true? What they say about the humans?" Vexithar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or annoyance. "Which story? There are thousands now, most of them exaggerated beyond recognition. The Hong Kong incident." The elder Vroxian's fur rippled in involuntary response. "That one is true, unfortunately." 20 minutes later, Zixithar found himself in a conference room that floated in zero gravity, held in place by gravitic anchors. Around the circular table sat representatives from a dozen species, Vroxians like himself, the insectoid Kresh, crystalline lumens, the aquatic Drell in their mobility tanks, and more. At the head of the table sat 3 humans. Zixthar had never seen a human in person before. They looked so ordinary, soft skin, bilateral symmetry, binocular vision. Nothing remarkable. Yet the room's atmosphere felt charged, as if everyone was waiting for something to detonate. The lead human, a woman with silver hair and dark skin named Director Chen, activated a holographic display. "Gentlemen, ladies, and honored guests of all designations, thank you for attending. As you know, the consortium has proposed a merger with the Terran Free Trade Alliance." "A formality, really," interrupted Crix, a Kresh merchant whose compound eyes gleamed with barely concealed greed. His chitinous exoskeleton clinked against his chair. "Your species has been, shall we say, resistant to proper economic integration. This merger will bring Earth fully into galactic commerce, with appropriate oversight." "Oversight," repeated the second human, Ambassador Lu, his face expressionless. "Is that what you call the 17 trade embargoes, the mining rights seizures on our outer colonies, and the adjustment protocols that would give the consortium veto power over our domestic industries?" The room erupted. Zixthar watched in fascination as the various species spoke over each other, their translator devices creating a cacophony of arguments about market shares, resource allocation, and legal precedents. His father remained silent, his 3 eyes fixed on the humans with an intensity that made the cub uncomfortable. Director Chen waited. She didn't raise her voice. She simply waited until the noise died down, which it eventually did, because her silence was somehow more commanding than all their shouting. "Let me tell you a story," she said quietly. 28 years ago, your consortium sent the Drell Corporation to Hong Kong. You remember, Crix? You were there." The Kresh merchant's mandibles twitched. Around the table, several species shifted uncomfortably. "The Drell Corporation bought the entire harbor," Chen continued, her voice level but hard as diamond. "Legal purchase. Everything by the book. They planned to strip mine the sea floor, displace 8 million humans, and turn one of our oldest cities into a processing facility. When our government protested, you reminded us that we had signed the Galactic Commerce Accords. We were legally bound." Zixithar leaned forward, his young heart racing. His father had told him pieces of this story, but never the full account. "So we called a meeting," Chen said, and now her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Just like this one. Your representatives came to negotiate the fair compensation for 8 million displaced humans. Do you remember what you offered, Crix?" The Kresh said nothing. "Relocation vouchers to our desert territories, and a 30-year payment plan worth approximately 200 credits per person. Chen's eyes swept the room. For context, that's roughly what you pay for a single luxury meal on the ship. The market price was fair according to, Crix began. According to your laws, Ambassador Liu interrupted, which you wrote after colonizing 47 worlds and integrating 32 species into your economic system. Always legally, always fairly. The third human, a young man introduced as Dr. Reeves, finally spoke. Here's what you didn't understand about humans. We've been dealing with power and greed for 10,000 years. We've built empires and watched them fall. We've fought wars over resources, ideology, territory, and religion. We've mastered every form of exploitation you can imagine, and we've learned to recognize it in all its forms. Zixthar watched his father's fur flatten against his body, a sign of unease in Vroxians. So we counteroffered, Chen said, her voice dropping even lower. We said we'd honor the Drell Corporation's legal purchase, but we'd also honor our own laws. We activated our planetary defense doctrine, classified the seafloor as a military security zone, and informed the consortium that any mining equipment would be considered a hostile invasion force. That's economic terrorism. Crix's voice rose to a screech. No, Dr. Reeves said calmly, pulling up historical documents on the holodisplay. That's sovereignty. We also released something else. 40,000 years of human history. Every treaty we'd broken, every loophole we'd exploited, every dirty trick we'd used in trade, warfare, and diplomacy. We uploaded it to the galactic net. Free access, all of it. Zixathar's three eyes widened. He understood suddenly what his father had been afraid to explain. Within 6 months, Ambassador Liu continued, 17 member species of the consortium had filed legal challenges to their trade agreements with you, citing precedents from human history. The Quirion Collective discovered what you were really paying for their rare minerals. The settlers of Proxima 3 learned about vertical integration and price fixing. The Kresh homeworld's labor unions, yes, they formed unions inspired by our history, went on strike. Director Chen stood. You thought we were primitive because we didn't have antimatter drives. You thought we were weak because we didn't have planet-killer weapons. But you forgot something crucial. We've been predators, prey, and everything in between. We've been conquered, and we've been conquerors. We know power, we know greed, we've seen it all before. She leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. So here's our counteroffer to your merger proposal. No. We'll trade with you as equals, or we won't trade at all. And if you try to force the issue, we'll do what we did before. We'll teach every species in this galaxy exactly how your system works, exactly how you've been exploiting them, and exactly how to fight back. We'll show them how to be human, Dr. Reeves added, and there was something ancient and terrifying in his smile. The meeting ended shortly after. No agreement was reached. The consortium representatives filed out in silence, their greed suddenly tempered by something they'd rarely encountered, a species that understood their game better than they did. As Zixathar followed his father back to their suite, he couldn't stop thinking about what he'd witnessed. Father, will there be war? Vexathar was quiet for a long moment. No, Cub. Something worse for us. There will be fairness, true fairness. The humans will make certain of it. The young Vroxian looked back at the blue-green planet through the viewport, seeing it differently now. Not as a primitive world to be exploited, but as something far more dangerous. A world that had learned all the lessons of power and greed the hard way, and refused to let anyone else suffer them again. Humanity hadn't just entered the galactic stage. They had arrived as teachers, whether anyone wanted the lesson or not. And in the corridors of power, among species who had built empires on others' exploitation, that was the most frightening thing of all.